The Smiler, one of the most celebrated and talked about roller coasters at Alton Towers, has a history of innovation, triumph and tragedy. Discover how this record-breaking ride became an iconic attraction, following in the footsteps of the Black Hole. From its exciting inception and innovative design, to the unforgettable experiences it delivers today. Join us as we delve into the highs, lows and enduring legacy of the Smiler. In the early 80s, Alton Towers was rapidly expanding, becoming a visitor attraction with national recognition. 1980s Corkscrew had doubled gate numbers, and its success was quickly followed by more new rides. The Pirate Ship, Wildwater Flume, and Around the World in 80 Days were added, catering to the crowds attracted by Corkscrew. By 1983, 1.6 million visitors passed through the gates, with the park hoping to top 2 million the following year. To do this, £5 million would be spent on 6 new attractions. While 5 would be off-the-shelf rides, the 6th would be something a little different, aiming to attract similar publicity to the Corkscrew 4 years earlier. This standout attraction would be the Black Hole. The Black Hole would be an indoor roller coaster, with most of the ride taking place in darkness. The site chosen for this new roller coaster will be in Springfield Centre, a section of the park that was home to the Pirate Ship, Cine 2000 and the Alpine Bobsleigh. Dinosaur Land sat at the edge of the area, allowing guests to stroll past life-size recreations of the prehistoric animals. This walkthrough attraction would be removed to allow for the construction of the Black Hole. During the winter of 1983, the fiberglass dinosaurs were moved to the woods surrounding the log flume, and construction crews moved onto the site. 250,000 tons of soil were excavated in an area the size of a football pitch, creating the plot for the new attraction. The roller coaster was then erected, before a giant green and yellow tent was constructed enclosing the ride. The brightly coloured tent hid the coaster within, and allowed for control over the lighting and theme inside. The 1984 season came, with areas of the park renamed, giving them more exciting titles than those before. Springfield Centre would become Fantasy World, with marketing that year focusing on the new Black Hole. Adverts showed trains looping around an asteroid, while newspapers ran articles exaggerating the ride within. Stories claimed it was the biggest of its kind in the world, where visitors could ride a laser beam while plunging down a 70-foot drop. It was reported that the ride could cater for an extra 8,000 people per hour, reducing high season queues. The reality of the ride was somewhat smaller. The roller coaster within a standard Jetstar 2 model from manufacturer Schwarzkopf. This modest ride reached a maximum height of 44 feet and had an hourly capacity of 900 people. Its enclosure inside the tent did, however, differentiate the Black Hole from similar installations. The queue for the ride would begin outside the tent, where a floating alien head would interact with visitors. Guests would then reach the interior space-themed corridors before descending to the loading platform. A maximum of 6 people could board the single-car trains, sitting in line 2 people sharing a seat. Trains would enter the dimly lit spiral lift hill, climbing skywards towards an astronaut. Once at the peak, riders would race down the first 27-foot drop and enter a banked turn before rising for a slow curve. Cars dropped again for a banked helix, followed by a slight rise, the track wrapping around the lift hill before the brakes. The majority of the ride took place in complete darkness, occasionally punctuated by some star effects or a red strip light along the track. The Black Hole and its marketing had the desired effect. More than 2 million people visited Alton Towers in 1984, with the park making £3 million profit that could be used for future investments. The Black Hole's success resulted in long queues for the attraction. In order to help with this, the full ride was dismantled at the end of 1987 and shipped to Germany to be reprofiled. When it returned, it was capable of running with coupled 2-car trains, improving capacity. The ride was dubbed the New Black Hole, with the interior largely the same. The continued popularity saw the adjacent vintage cars removed in 1993, so the former track could be used for an extended queue line. The roller coaster would receive a makeover in 1996, the interior taking on golden and copper hues, with a Jules Verne styling reminiscent of the newly opened Space Mountain at Disneyland Paris. 2 years later, the Black Hole would welcome a new neighbour. 1998 brought Oblivion and the world's first vertical drop to the park. Fantasy World would become X Sector, taking on a secretive military theme, with the Black Hole tent being painted a dark blue to better match the wider area. While still commanding waits on peak days, By the turn of the millennium, the black hole was beginning to be overshadowed by newer additions to Alton Towers. Nemesis was twisting guests upside down in Forbidden Valley. Next door, Oblivion's intimidating drop commanded attention. And in 2002, air would allow visitors to assume the position and fly. After 21 seasons at the park, the black hole would give its last rides on March 5, 2005. The large tent remaining, the coaster inside being dismantled awaiting its fate. It would leave the park in 2007, eventually finding a new owner and reopening as Rocket at Förövik in Sweden. The tent itself would remain at the park, sitting empty, with Alton Towers exploring numerous options for new attractions within. For Scarefest 2011, it would house 2 mazes, with the Boiler House and Carnival of Screams both being located inside the large structure. In December that same year, planning applications were initiated for the demolition of existing structures, including the Black Hole, to facilitate a new roller coaster. Something was being planned. January 2012 gave eager theme park fans a bit more information about the upcoming attraction. The planning application was updated, with renderings and a proposed roller coaster layout. The design submitted gave very little information about the ride, but seemed to show 8 inversions, with 2 high points presumed to be lift hills. In fact, the design itself was only indicative, as X sector is part of a general permitted development order, meaning that amusement park attractions require no planning. If it wasn't for the proposed station building size, an application would not technically have been needed. Documentation also showed a themed exterior for the station itself, as well as a large spider-like structure. Planning permission was granted in March, with demolition of the former Black Hole tent beginning soon after. Hoardings erected around the construction teased SW7 coming soon, continuing the legacy of Alton Towers' secret weapon code names. By summer, a large hole had been excavated, ready for steel to arrive on site. In October, it was time for marketing to begin. Posters around the park were erected, featuring an unusual grinning face and proclaiming a new world-beating roller coaster for March 2013. Looking to build further anticipation for the upcoming roller coaster, a Scarefest maze was created. The Sanctuary would introduce brave guests to the Ministry of Joy and thrust them into the strange world of Dr. Kelman and his unusual medical facility. Receiving rave reviews, the Sanctuary would introduce many of the key concepts used in the theme of the new ride. Coaster fans had pored over the plans for months, and had deducted the attraction would be a Gerstlauer Eurofighter model, and when track arrived in October, it seemed to confirm that. Speculation surrounding the world-beating element intensified, with some fan communities even chartering planes to capture aerial photography of the construction during the winter close season. 2013 arrived, and after much speculation the ride's name was revealed to be the Smiler, with the park stating, "We wanted to create some mystery around the name of our new world-first roller coaster." Additionally, it was confirmed that the opening of the ride had slipped to May. Marketing around the Smiler was increasing, with the website launched and a mobile game premiering. The former introduced guests to the attraction and its unusual theme, while the latter provided much more information. The ride under construction had differed from the plans submitted, and the game itself seemingly confirming that the Smiler would take the record for the most inversions on a roller coaster, with 14. The number chosen to ensure it wouldn't easily be beaten, while avoiding 13, another of the park's attractions. Opening day was set as 23rd of May, but construction issues and technical problems meant this date was missed. However, the ride was featured on television only hours after the initial human test. Daybreak's Laura Tobin became the first member of the public to experience the attraction, her debut ride broadcast live to viewers across the country. Despite breakdowns during a press event and further technical problems, the Smiler would eventually open to the public on 31st of May 2013. As visitors approached X Sector, the new ride would make itself known. While the Black Hole was mysteriously hidden from view, the Smiler was front and centre, its tangle of track looming over the area and filling the excavated pit. A chaotic soundtrack filled the air, and in the centre of the coaster track was a giant spider-like marmalizer structure, filled with video screens. Passing through an archway and descending a set of stairs, guests would find themselves in the attraction's queue. Surrounded by high metal fences, visitors would see roller coaster trains somersaulting overhead. Eventually they reached the interior of the building, where mesmerising projected shapes filled the walls. Stairs led the way up to the Smiler's station. Painted in stark white, the yellow accents and lighting were reminiscent of a medical facility. Trains held 16 passengers 4 across, resembling those on the Eurofighter model. The Smiler itself a variant of the ride type, allowing for longer vehicles. Riders would then be secured with over-the-shoulder restraints. Trains were dispatched with a blast of fog, while the ride invited them to join us as operators watched from a window above. It was here the ride delivered its first surprise. A Heartline roll hidden in the darkened basement. Riders completed the first of the 14 inversions even before the lift hill. Following a brief pause, guests were raised skywards. At the top, a 180-degree downward curve led to a corkscrew, quickly followed by 2 back-to-back dive loops. An airtime hill provided a brief respite, before the ride's largest element, a towering batwing. Exiting, another corkscrew was negotiated, before the welcome relief of mid-course brakes. Riders began to comprehend what had just happened, the relentless inversions somersaulting them over and over. However, the ride was far from over. Trains entered a vertical lift hill, offering a unique sensation to those on board. Cresting the peak, riders saw a 180-degree curve ahead. If they were lucky, a second train would be cresting the first hill, interacting throughout the layout. The drop led to a downward corkscrew, and then a sea serpent roll. An airtime hill then lined riders up with a cobra roll, intertwined with the earlier batwing. Exiting this, the ride then quickly negotiated 2 corkscrews, before a tight curve and the final brakes. Leaving the coaster trains, a rainbow staircase signified the exit, before riders wandered through disorientating corridors on their way to the gift shop. The Smiler was extremely well received by roller coaster enthusiasts and the public alike, the 14 inversions proving extremely marketable, while the coaster itself delivered a thrilling ride experience. Reviews celebrated the theme, queue and attraction, praising the ride as well as the full visual spectacle. Becoming the new must-do ride at the resort, the Smiler garnered national as well as international recognition. 5 trains ensured a theoretical 1,200 people per hour capacity, but waits in excess of 90 minutes were not uncommon. Despite the positive reception, the ride suffered with numerous problems during its first year. Empty trains valued on the batwing element on 2 separate occasions, while cracks were found on some of the supports. Additionally, 2 incidents saw debris fall from track and trains, the latter injuring members of the public. After operating for over 2 years, the Smiler would suffer a serious incident on 2nd of June 2015. A fully loaded train would collide with an empty test train, causing serious harm to those on board. The aftermath would leave those involved with life-changing injuries. The park would close for 5 days while investigations began, with the Smiler remaining closed for the rest of the season. The subsequent decline in visitor numbers leading to a number of attraction closures and a period of low investment. Following its prolonged closure, the Smiler would reopen at the beginning of the 2016 season. While the eyes of the world's media were focused on the attraction, it operated without issue. Slight adjustments were made to the theme, removing any references to marmalisation or correction. The success of the all-encompassing theme utilised by the Smiler would shape the direction of future attractions, replicated for the resort's next large-scale addition. 2018's Wicker Man would again be teased by a Scarefest maze, before the attraction would premiere with a fully realised backstory. The wooden roller coaster even featuring an indoor pre-show as part of the experience. Today, the Smiler remains one of Alton Towers' most popular roller coasters, and often has the longest queue times of any attraction at the resort. The positive reviews continue, with the 14 inversions still unbeaten. While some may be deterred from riding due to the coaster's history, many are still eager to climb aboard, ready to belong to the Smiler.